Pete and Tom have painted a very gory situation right there around the whole metric that brings together the criminal gangs or the actors themselves, the police institution, and obviously the community that we all share in as a populace within what you define as Kenya. But without Pete's examples that are actually really practical, you would not imagine that you would have some of these things that would, to an extent, also dispute some of the shared statistics. But I rely on the statistics. So let's just base ourselves on the statistics. Yeah. Because the statistics and the work of the police and, of course, the part and the role that you play in the community is very important to actually buttress and find a background to all this. And so the National Center for National Crime Research Center talks about, and I read through the report, and it puts the numbers between 2000 and, is it 10? Before the promulgation of the famous constitution, to about 33, which of course we dispute, because some of the criminal gangs that existed then, part of those are personally fought against, talk about the subaltern defense forces. So the evolution and the picture that's painted by Pete, sorry, is such that if you do not address a small-time fire, then it grows into something that's really uncontrollable. Yeah. And so 33 is some very conservative number, perhaps because I also share in the same background, my cadet class intake 33. Okay. But they put the number to an evolution to 2017, because that's a very important timeline right there, to well over, I think it talks about well over 326 criminal gangs, an increase of more than 897%. That should worry you that within a governable space that is called Kenya, you have such an increase over duration of only 7 years. But there's factors to it to consider right here. And one of them is pretty much to bring it home. So Geneva Paper 2018, because you need the tools of trade to actually commit these things. So weaponry and the weapons are assessed to the same. So the proliferation of small arms and light weapons is a factor to also consider here, because some of those criminal activities actually been sponsored and actually been pushed through the muzzle of a gun. The Geneva Paper 2018 puts this numbers, Linda, to about 650,000. So those are illicit weapons available for use within our borders. You know, that is crazy. Within the same year, and I was on TV, that is 2017, and a report came from the hothouse of good research that was done by a world body called World Internal Security and Police Index in conjunction with the Institute of Economics and Policy, because economic elements are actually very important to be considered here. And they polled 127 nations across the world. So it's a global body, no vested interests. And of course, they don't just particularly like Kenya. And they said our national police service was ranked third worst in the world. So further to buttress this point as to how then we are letting up, failing catastrophically in terms of addressing these criminal gangs, and with such rise in numbers, we have to put it right at the doorstep of our internal policing. And by this, not just the police alone, it's actually the community involved. But let's take it further in terms of the domains that are considered. One was our processes. So how do we recruit? How do we promote within? Then they talked about capacity. So capacity talks about the tools of trade that our National Police Service, as it is now after 2010 Constitution, as opposed to use to combat. So how is our intelligence? How is the wherewithal in terms of the legal infrastructure? Do we have enough laws, by the way? Or do we have any excess of the same, but we are actually not just applying ourselves to them? Then they consider another domain, which is legitimacy and outcomes. So we talk about outcomes here. And Tom has talked a bit, and of course Peter as well, in terms of, people get arrested and they get let up. They let go. People get picked up, and you know what? They're going to leak out some information that you've given. So what are the motives here? What are the incentives to the good people, the citizenry that are looking at that space saying, we can do something. But then if we actually let information of value into those systems, how are they going to treat it? How are they going to treat it with enough confidentiality? Or is this going to get back to other steps? So there's a whole lot of things. But just to say, in terms of just that report, personally, I don't agree with a number of things. Maybe even just the names of, the evolution has taken time. Through the softening vista of years, names have changed. But I would want to also point ourselves to, well, one, within the criminal actors themselves, the social media space, the online space, is now becoming, because in the information age, is a lot more interesting than even those people are bearing.
And I would have assumed, because one of the questions that I have here is that, I mean, with the coming of tech, we would have assumed that it would have been easy to address these concerns, but why is it
Absolutely. So the online space, and by the way, that's a difficult one, because people have not grown into that, or rather the regimented systems that we are, and thankfully to the way we actually constituted as a national police service, and the armies are now, grappling with how much the information age has now overtaken generations over time. And you have an institution that's very slow to change, whose wheels grind far too slowly. Yeah. Then you have the evolution of some of those things become more and more difficult to actually even pinpoint.